Hello everyone. This
Not
is me.
yet.
Not yet. I think it is. It says live on YouTube on the right, on the left side. But anyhow, whatever. I think we are live. What do you think, Judith?
Now we are.
Okay.
Now we are.
So hello everyone, to all our members of DiEM25, but also everyone who is watching us. This is our regular coordinating collective meeting, summer meeting, as you will see soon or already see on the screen. 30% of the coordinating collective is missing because some luckily went on well-deserved vacation. Unlike Yanis, whom we thought he would be missing today, but he's not. So thanks a lot, Yanis, for coming. He's on a 4-day tour through all the islands in Greece and all over political work, and also other members who are here. Let me just tell you at the very start that this will be the last live stream Zoom until September. Because some other CC members will go on vacation as well. We will continue our work, we will continue with our meetings, but the next live stream Zoom will be at the beginning of September. We have two parts of this meeting today. The first part is, as usual, traditionally, we will take 10 to 15 minutes on brief updates all around Europe, because already here we have many members from many countries in Europe, so we will reflect on the post-COVID, as we called it, although it's not post-COVID anymore, it is permanent COVID situation, and DiEM's role in it. And the second part of the agenda is updates on DiEM activities, a brief debate about the task force on feminism, where Jordi and Simona will give their input and brief us on it, an update on the Progressive International, and also an update on the current coordinating collective elections, where we would invite you all to join, and an update on what our members are up to. I can see that in the meantime, Mehran and Luis joined, and Jordi has two faces for some reason. So let's start. I think maybe we start from the periphery. We start from Serbia, and then we move to Greece, because in the meantime, what happened is that at the last CC meeting, we agreed that we would release a statement on the situation in Serbia and the police brutality and what's happening there. So perhaps Ivana can brief us what happened in the last week, how was the statement perceived in Serbia, and what else can we do? And then we move to Greece and to other countries.
Thanks, Srečko. Well, in the past week or so, there were protests in Belgrade, triggered by announced harsh measures against COVID again, like 48-hour lockdowns and so on. And it's now used to spin the story from the real cause of this rebellion, so to say, which is the regime. And now it is very clear that all spectrum of political options is against the regime, basically. So what is the most important and most difficult thing now is to somehow find a common ground and not to divide people even more. Leftists, right-wingers, nationalists, patriots, people who believe in God, people who don't believe in God. Those are all little groups that formed in the protests. I'm not talking about hooligans now that were, like organized groups to provoke the brutality of police, which was demonstrated. And the negotiations in Paris were taking place at the same time. So some also not so good vibes are coming from there, like the negotiations about Serbia being admitted in the EU, which of course, if we look at it from our DiEM side, is not such a bad thing, but it's resonating real badly here. And it could also have some consequences as closing the borders again and so on. all this is connected to COVID somehow, because it's also a political game. Who is to blame? Is it electoral campaign and our ruling party? Is it the protests now because people are gathering and not really taking care about measures and so on, and the situation with hospitals and sick people is getting worse, and our health system definitely cannot cope with it. I don't know what is the solution right now. It is very confusing at the moment, but this is the analysis. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ivan. I think maybe just one last sentence to be, kind of positive looking or future oriented looking. What do you think DiEM25 could do besides the statement that we published already last week,
I think that the statement was really good because it was about police brutality and arresting activists just for being there. I think DiEM is a great model right now, and especially our citizens' assemblies that we are promoting because of what I said before. The most important and most difficult thing would be to bring people together and to see what can be done from the grassroots, talking to people, some kind of parallel people's parliament, because our parliament is not existent at the moment. So if we cannot have representatives in the parliament, then we should gather in the park across the parliament. This is what came across my mind thinking about what DiEM could do.
Okay, so I suggest that maybe after this Zoom and so on, we speak more about it, how really we could do a concrete action or whatever, or writing writing something about it, proposing citizens' assemblies, linking it to DiEM's proposals. I suggest we speak about it later. And I suggest we go shortly to Yanis, and I would also ask everyone, including Ivana, but now also Yanis, to keep to 5 minutes maximum so that everyone has a chance. I know, Yanis, many things have been going on in Greece. You've been traveling all around these days. Actually, you're traveling this very moment and moving, but you just arrived. So maybe if you can brief us about the meta activities in Greece first, and then maybe also a more general view on the things happening in Europe connected to COVID and economy, of course.
Well, thanks, Sechko. Thanks, comrades. I just managed to get into the house. So I'm still on my phone, but that's all right. I think you can hear me well enough, right? Okay. Actually, I'm in Athens just for one day because I had the appointment to give a speech for about 20 minutes on cultural politics. Ivana, that's dedicated to you and to others. But yes, you're right. We've been to Rhodes, the Telecanese. I've been to Corfu, the Ionian Islands, almost next door to Italy. And tomorrow we are off to Crete for a 5-day tour of this very large island, and very progressive island, traditionally. But I want to speak so much about Greece at the moment. Allow me to relate to you what I think is crucial about what's happening across Europe. You may have noticed that a few days ago, 2 days ago, 2.5 days ago, there was a remarkable decision by the European Court, effectively to side with Apple and the Irish government against a decree by the European Commission to fine Apple 13 billion euros, 13 billion, not million, 13,000 million euros. That was a decision made by Vestager, the Commissioner for Competition, a very activist liberal person, but quite independent of the great corporations that don't like her very much. And what was remarkable about that fine was this was 13 billion that Apple was instructed to give to the Irish government. Ireland is a small country, 3 million people. 13 billion is a lot of money, right? And what was remarkable was that it wasn't Apple that appealed that decision, it was the Irish government. Because the Irish government is completely in the pockets of FANGs, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Spotify. because they book their profits through Ireland to pay 0.04%. And the way they do it is through the famous Irish double Dutch sandwich. It's called that in the parlance of tax evasion, because Apple, Facebook, and the others book their profits in Ireland, world profits in Ireland. Then the Irish government has an agreement with the Dutch government so that the money is funneled to Holland. And from Holland, they are funneled to the Caribbean, where they are supposed to pay corporate tax there. But lo and behold, there is no corporate tax in the Caribbean, so they end up paying nothing. And the Commission at long last 4 years ago took action against Apple as a test case. In the end, the European Court threw out the Commission's penalty, effectively siding with the Irish government and with Apple against the people of Ireland and against the people of Europe. You don't need me to say more about this. This is very important, and it's very important because of another two crucial developments this week. One is that we have a new president of the Eurogroup, and guess who it is? The Irish finance minister. How do we interpret this? It's a decision by the governments of Europe, of the Eurozone in particular, effectively to back Apple and Ireland against the European Commission. So in other words, what I experienced in 2015 was when I was in the Eurogroup is now getting worse. And what I experienced was the end of the European Commission. Whatever we may say about the European Commission, you and I are very critical of them, and we should be. But the situation is far worse than that. Even they are toothless. They have been utterly neutered by those who support the European Council. And there's another development. Remember the Irish double Dutch sandwich? Ireland and Holland conniving together in order to make sure that the large corporations don't pay any tax? I have it on good authority, and I even made a tweet on this and gave an interview, and no one dared to contradict what I said across Europe. It was given quite a lot of airtime. I have it on good authority that Emmanuel Macron nearly raised his hand physically to strike Mr. Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister. They almost came to blows. And you will understand why when I tell you that Emmanuel Macron flew to Holland to meet with Mr. Rutte, a courtesy call, if you want, in order to convince him not to block, not to veto the so-called recovery fund. We've talked about the recovery fund before, so I'm not going to bother you with that. So we'll close this down. And Mr. Rutte is, the Dutch government is, plays bad cop to the good cop of Germany. And they have been threatening to veto this recovery fund to make sure that all of it goes in the form of loans, which is of course completely useless to Italy, completely useless to Spain, because when you're bankrupt, loans don't help. Look at Greece in 2010. And so Macron went there to convince him, come on, Mr. Rutte, look, we need to get a move on with this recovery fund. Lift your demand for Troika-like preconditions for the money to be dispersed, to Italy in particular. And do you know what Rutte turned around and said to Macron? Not only am I not going to lift my objections to this, not only am I not going to lift, but I'm going to demand preconditions for France, because your pension system is over generous. And the rest you can understand, right? The reason why I'm saying that is because Holland and Ireland, which are at the center of tax evasion, large scale criminal tax evasion, are now central in the running of the Eurozone. So our analysis is DiEM, that what happened in 2015, what happened before that in 2010, is a long slide towards disintegration and towards authoritarianism by the very, very few, and oligarchy without frontiers, even against people like Emmanuel Macron, who's not exactly progressive, right? That analysis was completely correct. And comrades, I'm going to finish saying this. We're coming to the end of a long winter. This is now the summer. It's quite hot here. You can see how red I am. We have gone through a period as DiEM25 of changing on our organization principles. Now, every single member has a fantastic capacity to raise issues about policies, about actions, about what needs to be done in Italy, in France, in Holland, in Greece, to counter this slide into oblivion of our European dream of shared prosperity. Anyone who is not happy with what the CC is organizing can form a thematic DSC, and they, from there, call a DiEM's members assembly to change policies. Anyone who wants to be a member of the CC to do things better can be now a candidate for half of the seats in the CC. We need to get a move on, because this Europe is indeed in dire straits. We have the tools, the democratic tools within DiEM, in order to effect and make this difference. And one last comment, if I may. Speaking now on behalf of Mera25, our electoral wing here in Greece, we've worked out some really progressive participatory statutes for our electoral wing. We have a program. I would like to see the same thing in every other country. It is important for electoral wings to come up with their version of statutes that reflect the sophistication of what we've done here in Greece. And we will need answers to specific questions about what is specific about DiEM in Italy, in France, in Ireland. How does DiEM in Italy, for instance, differentiate itself from the PD, from other, Sinistra Italiana? Where are the great differences? How do we criticize? Where is our criticism of the EU different from them? Where is our policy from them different from them? Because if it isn't different from them, let's just fold our tent and become part of other existing parties until we have decent manifesto for our electoral wings and decent participatory constitutions, charters, statutes for our electoral wings. We should cease and desist from trying to pretend that we are something we're not. We need to get serious about growing the movement in Italy, in France, in Germany, everywhere, in terms of our internal democracy within our electoral wings, and in terms of what we tell the people out there, and how do we differ from everybody else. I have spoken for a bit long because I'm not going to be able to come back to the conversation. I'm expected now back to Parliament. I'm going to listen in for as long as I can, but at some point I'm just going to fade out because I need to disappear again.
I'm sorry, Yanis, I didn't realize that you were going to the Parliament back, so I would immediately give you more time. And I know you could have even more time to brief us.
That's
yeah,
right.
So thanks a lot, and thanks a lot, Yanis, for reminding again. I think this will repeat itself during this Zoom, that we have coordinating collective elections and that we invite everyone to join and to fill it out, because it's important for the reasons which Yanis already mentioned. So who wants to have the word next? We are still in the broad picture, in the big picture, Europe's situation and DiEM's role. And then later we will move to the members' updates, to CC elections and other topics. And Yanis will stay with us as long as he can. So who wants to speak next? Ideally female, so we have a balance. Maybe Judith or Rosanna could brief us what's happening in Germany, I mean, politically speaking, or with the COVID situation. So I don't know, maybe Rosanna, you want to have a word? Or Judith, because you're the two Germans, I'm sorry. I can play a German if you want, but I think it's better for the Germans to do it. Yes, so maybe Rosanna, you can give us a few words. Yep.
I can give you a few words. I mean, in Germany, at the beginning of COVID-19 crisis, we had a lot of protests against the lockdown, and a lot of strange people who were against the lockdown and so on. But now it's getting like better. They are splitting up their groups, and so we don't have this kind of hate in society and split up in society anymore, like in the few months. It's getting better. And yeah, but still we have protests of students a lot because yeah, there are many groups in society who don't get funding for COVID. Yeah, but like from my point of view, it's better than a month ago, I would say. I'm not sure, maybe you can add something, but like the big protests against the lockdowns are over, I think. And yeah, they were quite troublemakers there, but but now it's getting better. I mean, Germany is the biggest is doing the biggest profits in Europe, and we all as Germans realize that it's our fault to when we see the Italians and the Spanish people suffer. I mean, not all German people realize that, but more and more people, I think. But still in the news, we don't really have that much international news on the COVID-19 situation. I mean, of course, on the US and so on, but European situation is not really covered. I would say that's my point of view. Maybe Judith can add something.
Yeah, Judith, thanks a lot, Rosanna, but Judith is not really feeling well today. She told us before, so, and I realized there is another E09 Berliner who is also in Berlin currently, I guess, right, Pavel? I mean, are you three guys meeting at all or just living in the same Zoom and city? Yeah, social distancing. Pavel, maybe you can add something about your perspective. How does it feel in Germany these days, and maybe add some political points about it?
I mean,
and I can see Simona has her hand for the next speaker. Yes.
I can talk about Germany, but it might be more interesting and more relevant as a poll for me to talk about the Polish presidential election, which just finished.
Absolutely,
I know
absolutely, yes, please.
A lot of people, and I've seen a lot of DiEMers post articles, you know, expressing their disappointment at the result. And what really strikes me is that a lot of people, even progressives, even people on the left, had pinned their hopes on this also right-wing former mayor of Warsaw that was contending against, running against the peace candidate, Duda, in the elections. And the thing that's really tragic for me is that the vote was effectively split 50-50 between a kind of right-wing and proto-fascist candidate, which is the same thing we're seeing happening all over Europe. And the thing to understand about Polish politics is that the main fault line between the two parties that have been contesting power for basically the last 2 decades was never ideological, was never about different visions of how society should look or how the economy should be governed, but about the legacy of the transition from the socialist state that we had to the capitalist state, right? You basically had a massive workers' movement, the Solidarity movement, which overthrew the government and then split into two factions, with one faction demanding that all the former communists be punished and sent off to jails and held accountable for what they did, and the other side drew the famous thick line with the past and demanded that everyone who was in politics before be included in it today. And so this fault line emerged between a right-wing party and a slightly more right-wing party that has dominated the political discourse for the past 2 decades and prevented the emergence of anything else, anything different, until the left had a surprising electoral success in the last parliamentary elections. But, you know, Rafał Trzaskowski, who was running against Duda, had adopted increasingly right-wing policies and positions to pander to the electorate of peace. There are a lot of people in the LGBT community who are rightfully frightened now by the existence of these so-called LGBT free zones throughout Poland. About 30% of Poland is now officially LGBT free. And the opposition didn't really take a stand against that, didn't really take a stand on any other issues. And if you look, in fact, at the history of both parties, there's a lot of mobility between the two of them. And so, you know, if we're thinking about DiEM's role in this situation, I really don't believe that electoral contest is the way you win in this situation, because we've had 20 years of completely futile electoral contest that hasn't produced any change. And the left, even if it's inching closer and closer towards some kind of, you know, considerable electoral bloc, it's going to take decades for them to have the kind of power they would need to transform the country towards something more promising. And in the meantime, the political contest between the right and the kind of proto-fascist, the center right and the proto-fascist right is spinning the country out of control. So it's a really difficult situation. It was a massive disappointment to see how poorly some of the left-wing candidates did, like Biedroń, the former mayor of Słupsk, who is now an MEP in the European Parliament, who founded this left-wing coalition along with Razem, our former European Spring partner. He got something like 3%, even though he was long considered one of the most popular politicians of Poland, in Poland. So the situation is very dire, and I don't have much hope. We'll have to see what happens. Yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say about the situation in Poland. Thanks, Srečko. Srečko is knocking me along.
Yeah, no, I am playing the annoying guy today, trying to keep you everyone in 5 minutes if it's possible. But I know that the situation is completely mad. Besides Serbian elections, Croatian elections, now we had the Polish elections. Obviously, the conservative right is back in the so-called extreme center all over Europe, and we could talk about it more. So I'm sorry for everyone. I will cut today, but that's life, and it's 20 to 7. And Simona raised her hand. So I would suggest that we slowly wrap up this part of the agenda, and then unless there is someone, Sisi, if there is no one in next 1, 2, 3, okay, Sisi is the last, and then we move to the other part of the agenda. So Simona, Sisi, go.
Try to be short. I wanted to inaugurate with this live streaming a session about what DiEMers are up to in Europe, but maybe I would be too long doing it today. Anyway, just now we have a grassroots DiEM25 running about a housing crisis in Ireland that is connected to the housing crisis all over Europe, and that is connected to the rent strike we are organizing and the issue of the right to a house, to a rent, and just to live because you are a human being and not just because you are available for work. Another interesting thing that is going on, and you can join the forum to have more information, is a discussion on how to help or join forces with seasonal workers. That is from an say Italian point of view, migrants that come in Italy to work during summer from Bulgaria, Romania, and Eastern Europe. And from an European point of view, it's just to check which are the rights of these seasonal workers and how they are unionized. How can we help them to be unionized at a European level? This is connected with the COVID crisis, at least in Italy. It's very important. We have 2 new clusters of coronavirus, and they are in Bologna in a package delivery agency. And the workers there were migrants living in migrants shelters with no rights and no housing. And close to Naples in southern Italy, they are Bulgarians who came in close to Naples to work in the fields, collecting tomatoes and so on. They were put in quarantine with no money, nothing to live on, and some of them tried to escape from the quarantine because they just had no resources to live on during the quarantine. So we see another time how the workers' rights and the migrants' rights and the seasonal workers' rights are all connected, and all connected with our health and safety. Well, that's all on my part. I'll just join the forum and watch what's going on because our comrades are really great and they are starting wonderful things.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Simona, also for reminding that although DiEM25 is on a summer break, the DiEM25 local is going on, and there is a fantastic program going on. Watch it, participate, organize. Besides DiEM25, there is many other things, and DiEM25 local, and what you just said about the necessary organizing on the ground. There is many other things happening. So I suggest, I saw that Cici had her hand up, but now I think because of either time constraints or yeah, thanks a lot, Cici. I mean, there is an opportunity to speak whenever you want, but since you unstacked, I suggest that we go to the second part of the agenda, where everyone's input is very welcome. Actually, Simona, you made a bridge already to the second part of the agenda by mentioning what are the members up to. So we covered that part with you. I mean, but there are many other things. So I can just say briefly that the DiEM25 book, the transcripts, which is around more than 100,000 words. Those of you who edited something, and there are some of you here, know how big it is. It is proceeding. Me and Renata are working day and night on it. And hopefully this week or next week it's going to the copy editor and then to the next stages. Perhaps I would ask David to brief us very briefly about the Progressive International. We just had a cabinet meeting of the Progressive International, and the main conclusion for all, the main message out of it for all of you, but also our members, is that the Icelandic summit in September is postponed because of obvious reasons. It's too risky. It's impossible to bring so many people at one place physically. So that the cabinet of the Progressive International Council decided to do a hybrid version, digital and physical. But maybe David can tell us more about it, but also about other things which are happening these days. 3-4 minutes, and then we go to other updates and to the task force on feminism also, which Jordi and Simona have to brief us on.
Sure. Most of the stuff you can find on our website in case you're curious to explore further, but I guess the updates since we last would have spoken about the PI is, well, split across our different pillars. So the Progressive International continues to grow, bring on new members, connect with social movements and different community organizers around the world. In our blueprint pillar, we've just formed this working group on debt justice that is comprised of an incredible group of scholars and activists and organizers around the world. So some of their early publications, their statements of intent around the working group are now up on the site, as well as with the announcement. We are continuing to expand our WIRE coalition of progressive publications in different parts of the world, including, in Turkey. I have a longer list here. Let me just pull it up for a second while I find it. We're expanding, in Turkey, in the Philippines, including in Spain. So that sort of process of expansion is ongoing. And not much else. We have some exciting campaigns that are in the works, and a lot of the focus is about how we make this most of this emergency meeting that we agreed to have in September, because although the summit's been postponed for COVID reasons, it's clear that it's not possible for us to postpone history, and it's really important that all these, that we're able to convene the advisory council to make some key decisions about how to respond to the pandemic and other escalating crises. So on that basis, there will be an emergency session of the council in September, and a lot of the planning that's happening by the Secretariat is about how to make the most of that meeting in September.
Thanks a lot, David, and thanks a lot for the amazing work both to you and Pavel and many others who are involved in it. We'll keep everyone updated on what's happening on that front. And now I suggest we move to the brief debate about the task force on feminism, where I would give the floor to Simona and Jordi, maybe first to Jordi because he didn't speak yet and we didn't hear his voice for 40 minutes. So Jordi, please, the floor is yours for at least 5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes. But you seem to be muted still. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Srečko. No, just we approved some weeks ago the creation of 2 task forces in DiEM25, one about feminism and the other one about minorities. I think it was a very important decision, and it has a lot of potential for within and also from the changes on society that we would like to improve. We have been meeting with Simona, Johannes, and we are very excited to lead and promote this project. And we have been debating how to launch it and how to design it. We think it's fundamental, the participation of as many as DMers as possible. It has to be the origin of an open debate if we want it to be useful, because as I said, we think it as not only as something from the outside, but also and especially from the inside. So it's going to have, we think it's going to have these both sides. So for succeed in that is fundamental to have the participation of as many people as possible. And well, we think, how do you do that with such a big movement as DiEM25 spread around Europe and around the world? So it's very difficult to have close participation, which is very important in this case, not just a big debate. So what we think is that we should start with an open debate in the forum to present the task force, and I guess everybody knows it, but to present that it's already started, that Simona, Johannes, and myself are trying to lead it, and open a debate on the forum. And how do we organize? We don't want to have a previous decision made in how it should be done. We want it to be open. So how do we organize on the debate in a wide with everybody, but also in small groups in any countries, through the ENCs, in another DSC, whatever. We're not, we don't want to make the decision on that. So what we're saying is that let's start with this post on the forum, ask people to participate. I think another thing is important, and is that not only, it's not a women movement. Feminism is not a thing about that matters only to women. It matters to all of us. I think we all agree with that. So it's as important to have women participation as it is to have also men. So from here is just a call to all of our members to participate and let us help building this task force, these both task forces that we think are fundamental and very needed in our society and our movement. Simona, if you want to complete this analysis.
Yes, please. Thanks a lot, Jordi, for the update. It's great to see that we have some progress on that front. And yeah, Simona, if you want to add something to what Jordi said, please.
Oh, well, Jordi said almost everything. We agreed on how to proceed on it, and yes, as a discussion in the forum and to see what members will contribute to it is essential as a starting point. Of course, the actual work on it shall begin in September after the CDC elections, when we also will see who can be a member of the task force. The difference between, just for the members who listen to us, between a task force and DSC or a pillar is being that a task force is CC members taking the lead of the process. So we need to know who shall be in the CC and share tasks about it. I received also an email from Miro, that is the person that suggested to have also a task force on disabilities. So we shall not have just exactly a task force. The task force we agreed on in the all-member vote is broader, about feminism and diversity and disability. But we agreed with Miro, who suggested to have a sort of part of the task force about it, to start a DSC on disabilities, and to take some steps about accessibility to political action for disabled people, which shall be very important. So I will start another thread about it, and will work on building a DSC about disabilities too, a thematic DSC. Third thing, there is a proposal in the forum for an healthcare DSC, thematic DSC. I strongly support this proposal. This is not about feminism or diversity, but I just want to point it out.
Thanks a lot, Simona, for the updates. I think by this we are reaching the end of this live stream CC coordinating collective meeting. Unless someone has to add something now, I mean, we will be in touch in 5 minutes already once we finish the Zoom, because we have to continue working. And even if we won't be on live stream until September, we will keep working, and I hope many of us will also have some sort of rest or vacation. Simona mentioned it again. I will mention it at the end. Don't forget that we have coordinating collective elections, which are happening as we speak. Please fill it out. I mean, it's a very responsible position, but sometimes it's also fun. Sometimes it's too many Zooms, sometimes it's too many meetings, but given what is happening in Europe today, and we listened to it at the very start, unfortunately, Jan is left to the parliament, or fortunately, we have someone in the parliament. What's happening in Europe gives a big responsibility to all of us to participate and to organize. So we would all be very happy if we can greet some quality coordinating collective members who will help us push the movement further. If anyone wants to add something, now is your time. I think,
Yeah,
Judith, did you have a finger? Okay, Judith is finally speaking for the end. This is great news.
No, just because you didn't mention it yet, the last day to apply to the CC is the 6th of August. And it is very important if you're planning to apply, or if you're thinking about applying, to look at it now already, because the application is quite lengthy, and it also requires you to record a video. So don't do it on the 6th of August, start now. And also the ones who apply earlier have an advantage in collecting signatures and support, of course.
Okay, thanks a lot, Judith. Before we finish, I will ask every one of you in 10 seconds to invite people to join the coordinating collective. We start from Sisi, and that will be the end of this live stream session. Convince people to join us. Why should they fill it out?
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I think it's most important, first for very important political reasons, one of which is the COVID situation and the political demands it makes on us as a progressive and leftist or radical movement, however you want to name it. The second is that the only way of going beyond the virus Europe, let's say, is post-capitalism, because the contradictions and the problems of the capitalist system have been exposed during this COVID situation, and they demand solutions. And the last point is that we as DiEM, in my opinion, we are the only political force, however pluralistic and a force with multiple identities, to be able to construct a political program for all our European compatriots, political program with specific demands and directions. Because I started, I'll finish with this. Political program means that we have to remember to think of the people on the streets, the workers, the precariats, the depressed people, and pay attention to this constructive program more than paying attention to procedures, which are important, but all kinds of procedures cannot be ideal because internal procedures can only be resolved in practice. This is what history has taught us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Cici. I mean, I invited all of you to add something, but I think Cici was just so good that we should just end it here with Cici and continue with the rest of our bureaucratic parts of the meeting. I think we have one point of the agenda, which is not live stream, but it will be very, very quick. So sorry to everyone whom I invited to join, but the Zoom will just last much longer. I can see Jordi wanted to say something, right? Come on, Jordi, if you want, you conclude the live stream Zoom.
I wanted to hear you all because since I'm finishing my term,
that's true.
I have to decide if I run or not. So I wanted to think that arguments, but well, I have my own, and I think the wolf is out there, the ultra right, the crisis, neoliberalism, and I think that DiEM is for me the clever way to organize how to fight this wolf. So it's obvious that we need many people pushing with this fight. So just run for the CC. We need you. We need all of you.
And we need you, Jordi, as well. I mean, I don't know whether publicly I can say you should run again, or that would be some sort of, I don't know, corruption. But I hope you will run again, and everyone who was in the CC as well.
I think I will. Yes.
Great. So anyone else wants to add something? No? Okay. So Simona said Rosanna wants to add something. Yeah?
I mean, okay, I can add something. I think if you are an activist in DiEM and you want to represent the movement in the CC, then you should definitely think about running for the CC, just to to give the movement and the activists a voice, and I think that's important.
Okay, thanks, Rosanna. Anyone else? No. Okay, we are going to conclude this Zoom. Thanks to everyone who watched us on YouTube. Thanks to all of you who joined us in the midst of summer. We will continue our meetings during all summer, even if some people will go on vacation, and we will return to this live streamed transparent coordinating collective meetings of DiEM25 at the first week of September. As Jordi said, we need you, so please look at DiEM25.org and fill out the application for becoming a coordinating collective member. Thanks a lot, everyone, and well, see you soon in a minute.